Venezuela operates a military of approximately 123,000 active personnel, with additional militia forces, defense spending that's collapsed alongside the economy, and equipment inventories mixing Russian-made systems purchased during oil boom years with obsolete Cold War hardware that barely functions. This is every major weapon system Venezuela operates, and whether geography, determination, or Soviet-era equipment creates enough friction to make American invasion more expensive than political leadership would accept. We start with armor purchased when oil money flowed, freely. T-72B1. The Russian main battle tank that Venezuela purchased in 2010s, operating approximately 50 with questionable readiness. These mount 125mm smoothbore guns, composite armor, and capability that approaches modern standards when properly maintained. The problem is maintenance. Parts come from Russia, technical expertise is limited, and economic collapse means funding for upkeep doesn't exist. Against M1 Abrams with thermal imaging and 120mm guns engaging at 3,000 plus meters, T-72s would die at ranges where Venezuelan crews struggle to acquire targets. The advantage is, numbers mean American forces must destroy each tank, even if individual vehicles pose minimal threat to modern armor. AMX-30. The French main battle tank from 1960s that Venezuela operates in numbers exceeding 80, though how many actually run is doubtful. These mount 105mm guns and aluminum armor that's vulnerable to modern anti-tank weapons. Against American forces, these are target practice. But geography matters. Tanks positioned in defensive positions covering approaches can delay advances even when eventual destruction is certain. M18 Hellcat. The World War II-era tank destroyer that Venezuela somehow still maintains in inventory. These are museum pieces that saw combat against Nazi Germany, now rusting in Venezuelan depots. Whether any could start is questionable. AMX-13. The French light tank from 1950s that Venezuela operates in limited numbers. Obsolete when delivered, these provide minimal capability against modern threats. BMP-3M. The Russian infantry fighting vehicle mounting 100mm gun, 30mm autocannon, and anti-tank missiles. Venezuela purchased these during modernization efforts, operating approximately 120 with varying readiness. When functional, these provide mechanized infantry with protected mobility and organic firepower. The 100mm gun fires both conventional ammunition and laser-guided missiles, providing capability that older IFEs lack. Against American infantry fighting vehicles and anti-tank weapons, survival time would be measured in minutes once combat begins. BMP-3. The earlier variant that Venezuela operates alongside BMP-3M with similar capability and maintenance challenges. BTR-80. The 8-wheeled Russian armored personnel carrier providing infantry with protected mobility. Venezuela operates these in limited numbers for mechanized formations. EE-11 Urutu. The Brazilian 6-wheeled armored personnel carrier that Venezuela purchased in 1980s, operating over 100 in various configurations. These provide basic protection against small arms and transport infantry squads with minimal armor. V-100 Commando. The American armored car from Vietnam era that Venezuela operates for internal security and patrol missions. Against American forces, these are obsolete, but against guerrilla warfare or internal threats, these remain functional. Scorpion. The British light tank mounting 76mm gun that Venezuela operates in limited numbers. Designed for reconnaissance rather than combat against modern armor, these are obsolete but functional for internal security. Moving on to artillery that provides Venezuelan forces with indirect fires. BM-2. 1 Grad. The Soviet multiple rocket launcher firing 122mm rockets in salvos that saturate areas with high explosive fragmentation. Venezuela operates these for massed fires against concentrations of enemy forces. Accuracy is poor, but volume compensates when firing 40 rockets simultaneously. Type 63. The Chinese multiple rocket launcher providing additional rocket artillery capability with similar concept to BM-21. Smerch. The 300mm heavy multiple rocket launcher with range exceeding 90 kilometers. Venezuela purchased limited numbers, providing long-range strike capability against high-value targets. Moon-01. 105 VM howitzer. The American towed artillery from World War II that Venezuela somehow maintains in service. These are functional but obsolete compared to modern 155mm systems. Moon-14. 155 VM howitzer. The towed artillery from 1940s that Venezuela operates despite age. Artillery doesn't require advanced electronics. These kill as effectively as modern guns if ammunition exists, and targeting is accurate. Monet 98 155mm howitzer. The more modern towed artillery that Venezuela operates in limited numbers, providing capability approaching current standards. Model 56105mm pack howitzer. The Italian mountain gun designed for alpine warfare that Venezuela operates in limited numbers. These provide artillery capability in terrain where heavier guns can't deploy. Moon 19105M howitzer, the light towed gun providing organic fires to infantry formations. These are old, but functional. M3122mm howitzer, the Soviet artillery from World War II era that Venezuela maintains because disposal cost resources. Whether these can fire is questionable. M46, 130mm field gun, the Soviet long-range artillery with range exceeding 27 kilometers. Old, heavy, and slow to displace, but functional when ammunition exists. D-30 122mm howitzer, the Soviet towed gun that Venezuelan forces operate for indirect fire support. These remain functional despite age. Moving on to air defense systems. Protecting Venezuelan airspace. S-125 Pechora, the Soviet surface-to-air missile system from 1960s that Venezuela operates in fixed sites. Against modern aircraft with electronic warfare, these are obsolete. Stealth aircraft ignore them, and fourth-generation fighters jam or destroy them with anti-radiation missiles. S-300VM, the modern Russian air defense system that Venezuela purchased in 2010, providing genuine capability against aircraft and ballistic missiles. Whether Venezuelan crews can effectively operate these remains questionable, but the hardware approaches current standards. Against American stealth aircraft and suppression tactics, effectiveness is debatable. SA-6 Gainful, the mobile surface-to-air missile system providing air defense that can displace after firing. These are old but mobile, complicating targeting compared to fixed sites. SA-8 Gecko, the vehicle-mounted short-range surface-to-air missile for point defensive ground forces. These use radar guidance and threaten low-flying aircraft and helicopters. SA-13 Gopher, the vehicle-mounted point defense missile using infrared guidance. These threaten helicopters and low-flying jets with heat-seeking missiles. SA-16 Skinlet, the man-portable surface-to-air missile, similar to American Stinger. Infantry units carry these for engaging helicopters and low-flying aircraft. SA-7 Grail, the older man-portable missile that Venezuela maintains in inventory. Shorter range and less capable than SA-16, but numbers mean saturation capability. SA-3 Goa, the medium-altitude surface-to-air missile providing overlapping coverage with S-125 sites. American aircraft would destroy these early using standoff weapons. SA-2 Guideline, the surface-to-air missile from 1950s that shut down Gary Powers' U-2. Venezuela operates these despite obsolescence, because systems remain in inventory and disposal is expensive. ZSU-23 4 Shoka, the self-propelled anti-aircraft gun mounting 423mm autocannons with radar fire control. These remain dangerous to helicopters and ground attack jets at low altitude. ZSU-3 2, the towed twin 23mm anti-aircraft gun, providing point defense, without radar guidance. Simple, effective against helicopters, and requiring minimal maintenance. S-65mm anti-aircraft gun, the towed anti-aircraft gun from 1950s that Venezuela maintains in service. Against modern aircraft, these are ineffective, but massed anti-aircraft fire creates hazards. Moving on to Venezuelan Air Force operating mix of modern and obsolete aircraft. Su-30 Mk2, the Russian multi-role fighter that Venezuela purchased in 2000s, operating approximately 23 with questionable readiness. These are genuinely capable aircraft when properly maintained. Flanker design with modern radar, R-73, heat-seeking missiles for close combat. The reality is that parts come from Russia. Flight hours are limited, and pilot training doesn't approach standards required for modern air combat. Against American F-15s, F-16s, and F/A-18s with superior training, AWACS support, and numerical superiority, Venezuelan Su-30s would achieve some kills but face overwhelming attrition. But forcing American fighters to engage means missions flown, weapons expended, and risks accepted. F-16AB Fighting Falcon, the American fighters that Venezuela purchased in 1980s, operating approximately 21, though U.S. embargo means parts don't exist and readiness is terrible. These are capable airframes with radar-guided missiles and modern avionics when delivered, but decades without spare parts means cannibalization for parts and declining operational numbers. Against American F-16CDs with better avionics and weapons, Venezuelan F-16ABs are outmatched. Against less capable adversaries, these remain credible threats when actually flyable. CF-5 Freedom Fighter, the Canadian-built F-5 light fighter that Venezuela operates in limited numbers. These are simple, reliable aircraft designed for nations without resources for complex fighters. Against American forces, these die quickly but provide additional platforms that must be destroyed. Embraer MB-312, Tucano, the Brazilian turboprop trainer that Venezuela uses for pilot training and potentially light attack missions. These aren't fighters, they're training aircraft that could carry bombs or rockets in desperation, but wouldn't survive combat against actual opposition. K-8 Karakoram, The Chinese-Pakistani trainer conducting basic pilot instruction. Like Tucano, these are training aircraft rather than combat platforms. OV-10 Bronco. The American turboprop attack aircraft from Vietnam era that Venezuela operates for counterinsurgency and light attack. Against guerrillas without air defenses, these provide cost-effective firepower. Against American forces with fighters and air defenses, these are target practice. Me-35 Hind. The Russian attack helicopter mounting guns, rockets, and anti-tank missiles while carrying infantry squads in rear compartments. Venezuela operates these for ground support and transport, providing capability that existed when oil money funded purchases. Against American air defenses and attack helicopters, survival time would be minutes. But helicopters conducting close air support still provide value if employed before destruction. Me-26 Halo. The heavy lift helicopter that Venezuela operates for transport missions. These are the largest helicopters in production, carrying loads that smaller aircraft can't manage. Against American forces, these aren't combat platforms, but transport capability matters for moving troops and supplies. Me-17 HIP. The utility helicopter conducting transport, medical evacuation, and logistics. Venezuela's rotary wing fleet consists of Soviet helicopters maintained with salvaged parts. These provide mobility when functional. Bell UH-1 Iroquois, the American utility helicopter that Venezuela operates despite age. These are Vietnam-era aircraft that remain functional for basic transport, when parts exist. Bell 412, the twin-engine utility helicopter for VIP transport and utility missions. These are modern commercial helicopters militarized for government use. AS-532 Cougar, the French utility helicopter that Venezuela operates for transport and utility missions. These provide capability, when maintained. Bell 206, the light helicopter for reconnaissance and transport. Commercial helicopters adapted for military use. Cessna 182 Skylane, the light civilian aircraft that Venezuelan military operates for liaison and light transport. These are basic single-engine aircraft providing cheap mobility. C-130 Hercules, the American tactical transport that Venezuela operates for cargo and troop transport. U.S. embargo means parts are difficult, but C-130s remain in service because cargo capacity is essential. Casa C-212 Aviocar, the Spanish light transport for cargo and passenger missions. These provide tactical airlift for smaller payloads. Embraer C-95 Bandeirante, the Brazilian transport conducting cargo and passenger missions. Light transport capability for domestic operations. Boeing 737, commercial airliner that Venezuelan military operates for VIP and troop transport. Not combat aircraft, but provides strategic airlift. Beechcraft King Air, the twin turboprop utility aircraft for transport and liaison missions. Commercial aircraft militarized for government use. Moving on to Venezuelan Navy operating mix of patrol boats and older combatants. Lupo-class frigate, the Italian frigate that Venezuela operates in limited numbers. These carry anti-ship missiles, surface-to-air missiles, and anti-submarine weapons, providing offshore patrol and limited combat capability. Against American naval forces, these are outmatched, but forcing American ships to expend weapons creates attrition. Mariscal Sucre-class frigate, the older Italian frigate that Venezuela operates. Age and maintenance limit capability, but these remain operational for patrol missions. Constitution-class patrol vessel, the ocean patrol vessel conducting maritime security and presence missions. Lightly armed, these aren't fighting American destroyers but provide presence in territorial waters. The fast patrol craft for coastal defense. Armed with machine guns and potentially missiles, these provide inshore patrol capability. Rio-class patrol boat, the river patrol boats operating on Orinoco and other waterways. These conduct internal security rather than naval combat. Patrol boats. Venezuela operates dozens of small patrol craft, armed with machine guns for coastal and river patrol. Against American naval forces, these die easily, but create targeting problems through numbers. The German diesel-electric submarine that Venezuela operates in limited numbers with terrible readiness. Submarines require maintenance that Venezuelan Navy struggles to provide. Corrosion, battery degradation, and mechanical failures mean boats spend more time pierside than at sea. When operational, these could threaten American ships in coastal waters, where quiet diesel submarines are difficult to detect. Whether Venezuelan crews can effectively operate submarines remains questionable. Capana-class landing ship, the amphibious vessel conducting troop transport and logistics. Not combat ships but provide mobility for coastal operations. Moving on to anti-ship missiles providing coastal defense. SS-25 Switchblade, the Russian anti-ship missile that Venezuela purchased for coastal batteries. These provide capability to threaten ships approaching Venezuelan waters from positions American forces must locate and destroy. C-802, the Chinese anti-ship cruise missile providing additional coastal defense capability. Subsonic with limited guidance, these are defeated by modern defenses but create problems through numbers. Automat, the Italian anti-ship missile carried by Venezuelan frigates. These provide standoff engagement capability against surface targets. Exocet, the French anti-ship missile that Venezuelan ships carry. Proven in combat, these remain credible threats when employed properly. Moving on to small arms equipping Venezuelan forces. AK-103, the Russian assault rifle that Venezuela manufactures domestically under license. These arm Venezuelan infantry with 7.62 mm automatic rifles, similar to AKM, but with modern components. Simple, reliable, and effective. FNFAL, the Belgian battle rifle in 7.62 mm NATO that Venezuela operates as holdover from previous purchases. These remain functional, though being replaced by AKE-103 production. M16A2, the American rifles purchased before embargo. Without spare parts, these are being phased out but remain in inventory. AK-47 and AKM, Soviet assault rifles that Venezuela maintains in inventory. Standard Kalashnikov reliability and effectiveness, RPK, the light machine gun based on AK design, providing squad automatic fire support. Simple, reliable, effective for suppressing enemy positions. PKM machine gun, the belt-fed 7.62 mm machine gun, providing sustained automatic fire. Soviet design produces weapons that conscripts can maintain. DACK, the 12.7 mm heavy machine gun for anti-aircraft and anti-material roles, vehicle mounted or on tripods. These provide heavy fire support. NSV, the 12.7 mm heavy machine gun similar to DHK for heavy support roles. RPG, the anti-tank rocket launcher that destroyed more armor globally than any other weapon. Venezuelan infantry carries these for engaging vehicles, fortifications, and structures. Against M1 Abrams with composite armor, frontal penetration requires point-blank shots at weak points. RPG-18, the single-shot disposable rocket launcher for infantry anti-tank capability. Light enough for individual soldiers to carry. AT-3 Sagar, the wire-guided anti-tank missile from 1960s. Obsolete compared to modern systems, but functional against lighter vehicles. IGLA MNPADs, the man-portable surface-to-air missile for engaging helicopters and aircraft. Heat-seeking guidance and effective range create threats to low-flying targets. SA-18 Grouse, the improved man-portable missile with better seeker and range than earlier variants. Dragunov SVD, the designated marksman rifle providing precision fire at extended range. 7.62x54mm, or semi-automatic rifle for squad marksmen. M82 Barrett, the .50 caliber anti-material rifle for extreme range precision and equipment destruction. Venezuelan special forces operate these.